This is a spectral analysis comparing the original Suno mix to the modified one. Now don't worry about all the details on the graph just yet. Just notice the two different colored lines. They show a really clear, measurable difference in how the sonic energy is spread out. Something has definitely changed under the hood.
And here's our second clue. After all those human modifications, brand new drums, new effects, reshaping the dynamics, the track was run through an AI detection system. And what's so interesting here is the result.
So in the last explainer, we looked at this really consistent high-frequency roll-off in AI music. It was usually cutting off somewhere between 14 and 17 kilohertz, sometimes a little higher. And a lot of you in the comments pointed out, hey, that just looks like MP3 artifacts. It's a fair point, but here's the thing. Those examples we looked at were exported as full bandwidth WAV files. What we were seeing wasn't a hard cutoff from a codec, it was more like a spectral ceiling, with this low-level noise just sitting there instead of actual musical harmonics. So today we're going to shift our focus. We're not talking about frequency anymore, we're talking about structure. Because once you start separating these AI tracks into their individual stems, the question stops being about high-end sizzle and starts being about architecture. Across the web, creators are demonstrating what happens when you take Suno AI music stems, drop them into a digital audio workstation, and start making quick modifications. You've probably seen it. In one publicly available example, for an upbeat hard rock song, the drums were replaced, the dynamics were reshaped to make the vocals pop, and some extra reverb and delay were added. It was all presented as a clear refinement, an improvement on an already balanced track. But that raises a much deeper engineering question. When you have a generative mix that already sounds structurally coherent, does replacing its foundational pieces really improve the sound? Or does it quietly destabilize the entire architecture underneath? Please share, like, and subscribe so this information can reach a wider online audience. And if you would like to support the channel, there is a super thanks option available in the video menu area. Okay, let's get started with this short video explainer. Right, let's get into it. To really understand what's at stake here, we first have to talk about the promise of total control that we've all gotten so used to in music production. When you pull Suno stems into a digital audio workstation, a DAW, it looks just like any other session, doesn't it? You've got your separate tracks for drums, bass, vocals. Everything looks perfectly modular, totally independent. The interface itself just invites you to start tweaking, to replace things, to fix it. It gives you this incredibly powerful illusion that you are completely in the driver's seat. And in the example we're looking at, changes were definitely made. The drums got swapped out, effects were added, and yeah, on a quick listen, the modified version might even sound a little more impressive. Right away, you can see there's a measurable redistribution of energy between the two. The shapes are fundamentally different, and those differences are absolutely key to this whole story. So the most crucial difference is right here, in the low end. This chart basically simplifies that complicated graph we just saw. Just look at how the original mix has more energy in that foundational 40 to 80 hertz range. Now that's not just random rumble, that's the musical weight of the entire track. It's the punch of the kick drum, the power of the bass, and the modification essentially scooped that out. It's got a huge snare, a bit more of that high-frequency sparkle. It feels more open. And it is so easy to hear that difference and immediately think, yep, that's an improvement. But this is where the analysis by Vinatea gets really fascinating. It pushes us right past that first impression and forces us to ask a much deeper, more fundamental engineering question. And this is the absolute heart of the matter. When the AI has already given you a mix that works as a complete, coherent system, what are we actually doing when we start pulling it apart? Are we refining it, or are we accidentally breaking the very thing that makes it work in the first place? Let's look at the clues. Okay, here's our first piece of evidence. This is a spectral analysis comparing the original Suno mix to the modified one. Now don't worry about all the details on the graph just yet. Just notice the two different colored lines. They show a really clear, measurable difference in how the sonic energy is spread out. Something has definitely changed under the hood. And here's our second clue.
After all those human modifications, brand new drums, new effects, reshaping the dynamics, the track was run through an AI detection system. And what's so interesting here is the result. It still flagged the track as having strong AI characteristics. So the question is, why? Why didn't all that human work make it register as more, well, human to the detector?
To answer those questions and kind of solve this little mystery, we need to pull back the curtain and look at something you just can't see inside your DAW, the hidden architecture of how these AI stems are actually created. And this right here is the key to the whole thing. Suno stems are not like traditional multitracks, recorded from separate mics in a studio. They are what we can call rendered composites. And what that means is the AI has already made a whole bunch of really complex mixing decisions, like how the bass and the kick drum lock in together, or how the vocals sit with the snare, and all of those decisions are already baked or printed right into the stems themselves.
This chart really lays it out perfectly. In a conventional recording, you build the relationships between the instruments during the mix. That's the mixer's job. But with Suno stems, those relationships are already solved and embedded deep inside the tracks. They aren't independent at all. They're completely interdependent.
Think of it this way. The AI didn't just generate a kick drum and then a bass guitar and then stick them together. No, it solved the entire low end of the song as a single unified system. It balanced everything globally to make the whole song work together. The system was optimized from the top down, not built from the bottom up.
So, with this idea of a hidden architecture in mind, we can finally understand the clues we saw earlier. It really all boils down to the huge difference between making simple surface changes versus altering the fundamental structure of the mix. So let's go back to our first clue, that spectral graph. We can see exactly what happened now. The original mix, that light blue line, has more energy in the 40 to 80 Hz range. Now for a hard rock track, this isn't just some low-end rumble, this is the core foundation. It's the weight of the kick, the power of the bass. It's the propulsion that literally drives a song forward.
So the crucial point here is that the modification wasn't a simple improvement, it was a trade-off. By swapping out the drums, it traded that essential foundational low-end weight for a little bit of extra high-frequency brightness. Sure, it might sound a little clearer on a laptop speaker, but on a full-range system, the song actually lost its propulsive power.
And that brings us to our second clue. The AI detector wasn't fooled because
The drums were replaced, the dynamics were reshaped to make the vocals pop.
adding reverb or tweaking the EQ are basically just cosmetic changes. They don't alter the deep statistical patterns of the performance itself. The unique timing, the harmonic choices, the phrasing of the vocals. Those core elements were all still there, and that's what the detector heard.
To truly integrate a new element, like a completely different drum kit, you can't just drop it in. You would have to do a full-scale reconstruction. And that means checking the tempo integrity, aligning every single transient hit, retuning the new drums to the existing bass, rethinking the entire compression topology, and then rebalancing all of that low-frequency energy. You're not just modifying, you are re-architecting the song's entire foundation. And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway from this whole analysis. Anyone can make a surface change that sounds different, but preserving, or even trying to recreate deep structural coherence, well, that is an entirely different and much, much harder job. All right, this analysis was conducted using a sonically balanced, upbeat, hard rock Suno generation, one that already had a controlled, low-frequency structure and a cohesive sound. The things we've talked about apply to that type of generation, a mix that isn't obviously flawed. Now, there are certainly cases where AI generations have clear technical issues, unstable transients, weird snare compression, too much high-frequency hash, or an imbalanced low end. In those cases, yeah, stem modification might be justified. But even then, these same structural principles apply. Replacing or reshaping foundational elements without reconstructing that kick-bass relationship, the dynamic topology, and the spectral balance can actually introduce new instability while you're trying to correct old flaws. So the more fundamental question becomes this: if a generation is significantly flawed, why modify it at all, unless the underlying song itself has something uniquely compelling? True reconstruction requires more than just swapping components. It requires rebuilding the foundation and recalibrating everything above it. At that point, the process moves from simple adjustment to a full re-architecture. Surface changes are easy, structural coherence is not. And when stems appear modular, it is worth remembering that what sounds independent may have already been solved as a system. If you found this information useful, please subscribe, like, and share the video so that it can reach a wider audience. And if you'd like to support more content like this, the Super Thanks option is available in the video menu under the 3-dot area. See you again on the next one.
You've come